Welcome to the Johnny Cleveland podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome this afternoon. It is a Saturday. Good to have you here. I hope you like that intro. I don't know what the heck I'm doing with that intro. Was trying to get it to preview ahead of me coming on the screen, but it's not working. So we'll figure those things out as we go. But it's good to have you here. It's a Saturday afternoon. Have not had a podcast in a while since this last Monday. And of course, Monday, I was very pretty to the point with, we talked a little bit about Tom Brady, and we got into talked a little bit about Baker Mayfield and some of this craziness out there with these trade rumors. And so we're going to kind of focus on that. And so good to have you here. Trying a different setup here, and got my Wichita State gear on, the Shockers. Of course, many of you know I lived out in Kansas for many years. So actually this afternoon also, one of my favorite teams is the Lady Buffalo Bulls up there in Buffalo, UB, and they are playing right now against Central Michigan. Many of you know that my daughter played hoops up there a few years ago, graduated. Coach Jack, great coach up there, along with Coach Sharkey and the gang up there. They're having a very good season, off to a good start. They're playing a very tough Central Michigan team. It's always a competition when they play each other. So we'll see what happens with that game. But both teams are coming in pretty doing well, and it should be a good contest, a good barometer for both teams. Always has been. There were games when my daughter was a senior. One of my favorite moments, the Bulls actually lost the game, but they in 2018, Buffalo Bulls went 29-6, which is a record for the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if that will ever be broken, but they made it all the way to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament, where they played South Carolina. Prior to going to the NCAA tournament and the big dance, they played Central Michigan in the MAC tournament in the championship. And in that championship, the Bulls lost. I believe the score was like 96-91 in overtime, I believe. They've had several overtime games against Central Michigan over the years. And this was a really hard-fought game. It was going to who was going to have the last possession, and Central Michigan pulled that out. But both teams that year in 2018 made the big dance. Both teams did very well. Actually, that year in 2018, Central Michigan beat the Ohio State Buckeye women basketball team. Buffalo, on the other hand, they beat Florida Atlantic, and then Florida, the Seminoles, and they beat them pretty dominated. Beat them by I think it was about 20 points. And then they got to go up to New York, where they had the the Sweet 16, where they had the regional tournament, and they lost to South Carolina. But that's Buffalo. We're here. This is our podcast, the Johnny Cleveland podcast, which we kind of focus on mostly things Cleveland. And with everything that's been happening over the last few weeks, we've got a Super Bowl coming up. We talked a little bit about that on Monday. Excited to have the crew from Kansas back on next week. We're going before the Super Bowl, either Saturday or probably Sunday, prior to game time between the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to have that group from Kansas. We're going to get together. We're going to share our wonderful pregame snacks and food for the Super Bowl parties and gatherings that you're all having as well. Looking forward to that. And so we'll talk more about the Super Bowl as we get closer to that. I've been working on an article. I work for, write for CleveSportsTalk.com. Great group of writers, many of them younger. And, there's been a lot of chit chat out there. I really was annoyed Monday, and I'm continuing to be annoyed by just the stupidity out there amongst, especially senior writers that, from the Cleveland Plain Dealer, people like Mary Kay Cabot, who are just sparked this whole thing at the beginning of the week. And I know she wasn't the only one, but she wrote an article a week ago about, the Browns should really consider trading Baker Mayfield for Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. And I went through my podcast on Monday and basically shared, the data, the stats that really, I mean, the things, people are just creating this fiasco, and Mary Kay Cabot is one of those people. It's just stupid. The stupidity is beyond explanation. The Browns have had their most successful season in decades, and they won 12 games. And that has everything to do with Baker Mayfield and their coaching staff and all the great other players the Browns have, like Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, who's injured too, Jarvis Landry. They all helped get us to those 12 wins. And what Kevin Stefanski built with Baker Mayfield, you can't make that up. You can't just bring in some athletic quarterback who has had a few good seasons like Deshaun Watson has, but he's had a pretty crappy season. So this argument about, well, Deshaun Watson's stats this last year, 30-some touchdowns, 7 interceptions, was better than Baker's. Well, Baker had 30 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. They're virtually the same. Here's the thing. Deshaun Watson's team sucked. They were 4-12. The Browns weren't this year, and they're going to be successful going forward because they have the quarterback and they have the coaching. So this fiasco, I mean, I don't know what Mary Kay Cabot is doing up there in Cleveland other than just trying to do clickbait so that people, click on her stories. It's absolutely a disgrace that people in that position who write for pretty popular periodicals, online and the Cleveland Plain Dealer can get away with this. I mean, if I'm Baker Mayfield, yeah, I'm pissed off too. And apparently, he made a little comment on Twitter. And so then the debate the last couple of days, well, is Baker really bothered by this? And then you get other people on national media outlets who are just, grabbing at stories. It's the dead of winter. I get it. There's not a lot else to talk about right now as we prepare for the Super Bowl. So you're creating crap. We got an impending snowstorm here. We could talk about that. Looking forward to that. We've got maybe a 6 to 8 inches of snow coming in here in the Columbus area. So I like snow and I like the winter. But getting back to everything that's going on with this chat in social media is absolutely ridiculous. Any of you who are Browns fans, who have been Browns fans for decades and have grown up with this team and are over the age of 40, understand what I'm talking about. So it just blows my mind even more. Why are these reporters that are supposed to be skilled reporters continuing to do this? Why do they have this hatred for Baker Mayfield, who just helped bring the Browns 12 wins on the season? People are bringing up crap like, oh, well, if we had Deshaun Watson in that game against Kansas City, we would have won. Where the hell is that coming from? Who are you? Why are you talking? You have no common sense. So that's the problem. It's the problem with all these, especially, many of them are younger fans who you haven't been, all you have seen is Browns misery. Unfortunately, the good thing on our end, the people that are older Browns fans, we have seen successes. It does not come along twice or 3 times in a short period of time. I've talked some about Bernie Kosar. I grew up watching Bernie Kosar and Brian Sipe. They were great quarterbacks. But if you really go back and look at the film and study that, or go look at stats, they weren't over the top crazy good. And when you start stacking it up against Baker Mayfield, I mean, Baker Mayfield is doing one hell of a job, and he would be very competitive against somebody like Bernie Kosar in their heyday. I read an interesting article in an old 1988 Sports Illustrated preview on the season, early in the season, when Bernie Kosar, I think, was going into his 3rd season, maybe his 4th season with the Browns. And there was a lot of talk about how he played and his sidearm delivery, how it was very awkward, but he was always successful. And he was for the most part. But like I even talked about the 1986-87 playoff game, that 87 January when they beat the Jets in the double overtime game. I mean, Bernie Kosar threw for a lot of yards that game, but he threw several interceptions and really was saved by the defense several times in that double overtime playoff game. So getting back to where we're at with the Browns, your focus, if you're a Browns fan, stop with all the crap that you're talking. Focus on the future. Focus on what needs to happen to help get the Browns into the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. You're close, Browns fans. You're very, very close. The defense is a struggle at times, and we relied heavily on turnovers. And if we didn't get a turnover in a game, we struggled and lost a few of those games. So, the Browns need to focus on defense. You go get we need speed. You need a corner. You need a linebacker who has some additional speed. You need a defensive end that can go opposite Myles Garrett and create havoc. Now, the Houston Texans are in possibly trade mode. No, we don't want Deshaun Watson. We don't need Deshaun Watson, so stop talking about Deshaun Watson. It's not happening, and you are creating chaos and just being stupid. Plain and simple. But there are other players from Houston. For example, the older J.J. Watt. Yes, he's 32 years old. He's in his last couple of years as a defender. But, the Browns could use something like that. We've got some cap space. You could go grab a J.J. Watt. You're coming off a 12-win season. You're that close to the Super Bowl. Houston Texans were not that close ever to a Super Bowl. So stop bringing up, again, Deshaun Watson. Focus on the future. What else do the Browns need offensively? Well, other people are saying, well, let's get rid of Odell. Why? Yes, he's injured. He's coming off of a really bad injury. I don't know what's going to happen next season with Odell, but why do you want to get rid of him again? You just got him. And if he's healthy, you saw what he did in the first half of the season. Now, the Browns could look at getting another wideout. They'll probably hold on to Hollywood Higgins, I'm guessing, because, Hollywood is pretty close with Baker. The Browns would not have gotten to where they are this year without Baker's energy and motivation. And some of you who were like to say, well, Baker lost some of those games that we could have won. When? He helped manage those early games midway. I was thinking about this when Nick Chubb went down early in the season when they were playing their game against the Cowboys. And the dread that came out after that. Oh, my God. How are we going to win without Nick Chubb? Well, we did. We beat the Colts. The Browns beat the Colts. We got our butts whipped against the Steelers. And everyone is freaking out then about Baker because then we go into the Cincinnati. First quarter was devastating. People were writing Baker off big time. And then what happened? Baker went on to throw 22 passes in a row and get the game winner to Donovan Peoples-Jones in the corner of the end zone to win it in the last seconds. Baker Mayfield has helped manage this season, so stop with all the crappy talk. So I'm writing an article about that. I'll share that out on clevesporttalk.com. I hope you take a look at that. And it's been a lot of fun doing that. In other news, we're in regards to other Cleveland sports teams. The big news is last week we re-signed Cesar Hernandez. We've got another kid coming in from the Twins, Rosalio, outfielder. There's been some rumor out there that Jose Ramirez from the Indians is possibly on the trading block, that the Atlanta Braves have been in discussions with taking him off the Indians team. I don't know what the Indians owners are doing, the Dolan owners. It's pretty pathetic that they've gotten rid of, Frankie and then, Cookie. there are a lot of upset fans. They're going to have to figure something out because they're not going to draw if they have fans this upcoming season. The interest in the team, yeah, they've got good pitching. They have the Cy Young winner and Shane Bieber, but they're losing interest all over the place. Now, the Cavs, they played awful last night. They played the Knicks in New York, lost. They had a very interesting week. They played well. Again, they tried playing well against the LA Lakers. LeBron came to town. And for 36 years old, LeBron has got to be right up there. You know, I'm not going to get into that discussion again today, but, you know, he was out of his mind. I guess he got pissed off by one of the Cavs front office folks who was making fun of the fact he missed a shot, I think at the close of maybe the half or the third quarter. Of course, then LeBron went on to score like 15 or 20 points, close out with 46 and totally dominated the end of that game. But the Cavs are young. The Cavs, I think, stand at 8 wins and 9 losses. Colin Sexton is playing out of his mind at times. Garland is still, learning. He's young, man. I think he's only 21. I think he just turned 21. I can't stop thinking about my own kids. They're in their early 20s. And imagine playing on a pro team when you're 20 or 21. It's pretty intense. I like what, they've brought in some of the new players. And, but they're staying at 8 and 9, which is probably better than we could have hoped for at this point in the season. We'll see what happens in their next game. Some of these games have been postponed because of COVID. There's been discussions again about, bubbles. People are talking about, should we go back to the bubble? But people are getting the new vaccine now. That's been a kind of a big thing out there with COVID. Actually, I'm scheduled to get a shot for that vaccine coming up shortly. So I'm looking forward to that. And I would encourage you to think about doing that and continue to work your socially distant, and you're wearing those masks. Found myself this week, my son and I, Grant, man, many of you know my other co-host that comes on the show. Grant has become an expert bowler. I talk about this periodically on the show. And the last couple times we've gone bowling this week, we've gone twice, and I don't think he's had a score under 100. We bowl about three games, and we were out and ran into the gas station and completely forgot about my mask. And I got halfway into the gasoline station, and people are looking, and I'm feeling overly like, oh my gosh, why am I not wearing my mask? So that's what happens, folks, right? We have been so conditioned now to wear the mask that it's awkward to not wear one. And it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for all of us to get used to hopefully not having to wear masks again. Folks, what do you think? Maybe another year or two before we get back to feeling comfortable not wearing a mask. I'm very hopeful with all these new vaccines that are coming out. And it seems like that there's more positives and negatives with all of that. So I would encourage you again to, if you can get vaccinated, try to do that. And so that's all I got today. It is a Saturday, and next week we've got the big Super Bowl between, like I said, the Bucks and the Chiefs. And my friends back in Kansas, I know, are very excited to see what happens with that. I'm not going to give you a prediction today, but, Tom Brady is closing in. Does he have another year after this year? Are we going to go out with a win? Are those conspiracy theorists out there in the NFL, would this be the way for, Tom Brady to go out with the win? Will that happen? Will the Chiefs rise to the occasion? I mean, personally, the Chiefs are a far better team than the Buccaneers have been. That's why they're the world champs. So it should be a fun game. Looking forward to it. I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. We're kind of excited here at our home, our impending storm. My co-host Grant has been repeating the last 10 or 15 minutes every so often, every 10 or 15 minutes that, hey, snowstorm, he keeps saying. So Hey, everybody, have a great afternoon. Thank you for checking in on the show, and we'll be coming to you later this midweek to start discussing more about the Super Bowl. Until then, everybody, remember to keep smiling. Take care.